All right. Welcome back to another episode of the Post Game Spread. I'm your host, Blake Helm. I'm just getting done now with some editing on the Greg Taylor story, and it's absolutely fascinating. I had kind of a close view of a little bit of the beginning of some of the Greg Taylor story, and I always wondered how it went. Greg Taylor being this phenomenal shortstop at Springfield High, kind of in the late 90s, graduated in 2000, was all-state. Ended up going to Forest Park down in St. Louis, getting drafted by the Yankees in the 42nd round, and then moving on to the University of Louisville. And he had this really interesting college career because, got drafted early on, had the success, and then tons of injuries, the yips, mental issues, losing confidence, battling back, all these things. It's really cool to tell these stories of guys that made it to the big leagues and had these, careers without too many roadblocks. But I also wanted to tell the stories of guys like Greg that had all these tools, that had the promise that many thought or could have predicted were going to be a professional and see where that takes them. But it didn't go that way for him. And I'm sure he learned a lot about himself. He did. We figured this one out, but a lot about life and all the hardships and things that baseball can teach you. And it was so heartwarming to hear him talk back on it, and also all the people from his career. He had no idea how some of these coaches even saw him or thought about him, because he wasn't able to fulfill some of these, promises of talent that some of these coaches brought him in because of injuries, because of mental things. So, and what's really kind of fascinating too is what Greg has turned this into. So now he has Greg Taylor Performance Consulting, it's sports and mental performance enhancement. It's down in St. Louis. About 4 years ago, he went back and got his master's degree, got credentialed, got deep into this, and is making this his passion. So just fascinating that he turned this pain, this thing that happened to him in his life, into his passion, and he's rolling with it. And it's incredible. This story is incredible. This one is very close to my heart too, because I went through a lot of injuries and mental stuff too. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Really incredible. All right. The Greg Taylor story, but first, a few words from our sponsors. We are also brought to you by BOS, Bank of Springfield, and Jason Knadler. The Bank of Springfield has essentially a whole baseball team over there. I'm talking guys like Jason Knadler, Justin Knadler, Timmy Ballin Wallen, Eric Weaver, Ryan Murphy, Murph Mathiot, Frank Stefano, Greg Morantz. I trust every single one of these guys to handle my money and to steer me in the right direction financially. There are 3 locations across the greater Springfield area for your convenience. Bank boldly with BOS. We really appreciate you guys. We are also brought to you by Iron Palm Coffee, located at exit 82 right off I-55 for Auburn and Pawnee. This is a very special guy to me. This is my buddy John Camp, one of my best friends. He's had this vision of having this coffee spot for years. It's finally, come to fruition, and he's slanging some of the best coffee in Central Illinois. It's a coffee trailer serving up top brewed quality coffee, espressos, lattes, frappes, tea, baked goods, and much more. You can find them on Facebook at Iron Palm Coffee 217, IG or Instagram Iron Palm 217. Seriously, go support this guy. He's a big part of my story. Incredible guy, incredible vision, the best coffee around. Go support him. We are also brought to you by the Hitting Center, and they have some very big news. The Hitting Center Arsenal Baseball Organization, with over 20 years of excellence, is making the leap to Shields Sports Complex, the future of sports in Springfield. Springfield's premier destination for baseball and softball is moving to a brand new home this fall, and they're inviting you to be a part of it. Currently located at 1800 South Turkson Parkway, the Hitting Center features 12,000 square feet of indoor space with 8 batting cages and 2 pitching lanes. But now, they're getting ready to move into a brand new state-of-the-art sports dome at the Shields Sports Complex, bringing endless developmental possibilities and even more room to grow. With this exciting move comes the opportunity to expand. We're looking to add new teams, players, and coaches for both Arsenal baseball and Hitting Center softball. Interested in joining one of our teams or perhaps starting a new one? With 10 baseball teams and 7 softball teams already in action, we're proud to utilize the most cutting-edge technology in the game, including Hit Tracks and Rapsodo. Plus, our partnership with UIS Baseball gives us access to their incredible turf field for year-round practices and games. And soon, We'll be adding turf time at the Shield Sports Complex, a game changer for all of our players. At Arsenal Baseball, our mission is clear. Train with purpose, develop leaders, and excel in baseball and in life. This is more than just a game. It's about building character and striving for excellence in every area of life. The Hitting Center, Arsenal Baseball, and Hitting Center Softball, now calling the Shield Sports Complex home. Come check us out and be a part of this exciting new era of sports in Springfield, as we enjoy being a partner at the new Shield Sports Complex. Call 217. We are also brought to you by The Office Sports Bar and Grill, located at 1919 West Isles Avenue. This is a really special place. I've been going there since probably 20 years, since I was in college, and there's just so much cool sports memorabilia, dating back through Springfield's history. All different high schools represented, pro guys, college guys. There's some great stuff on the walls. It's a great place to get together with friends, a great environment, inviting, warm, happy, lively. Great place for great conversation, great drinks, and great food. Please go see this place. Go patronize them. We really appreciate the support. The Office Sports Bar and Grill. All right. Welcome back, guys. This is going to be another episode of the post-game spread. I'm your host, as always, Blake Helm. Sitting across from me right now is Greg Taylor. This is going to be a really special episode. Special guy. His story is kind of close to my heart, and I got to see a little bit of it, early in my baseball career. So let me start out with a little bit of his accolades and background, the good stuff. Greg was a 2000 Springfield High grad, where he was a two-sport standout in baseball and basketball, a 4-year starter in baseball, honorable mention All-State, 4th in career runs, 8th in career triples, 1st in career base on balls, 6th in single-season ERA, 1st in career innings pitched, 1st in wins with 22, 4th in Ks, before moving on to Forest Park in St. Louis and getting drafted in the 42nd round of the 2001 draft by the Yankees, and then heading on to the University of Louisville, where the glitter turned out to not be all gold. He also had stints in there in the NECBL and the NYCBL in the collegiate draft leagues. And now, which is really cool, and we're going to get to, and it's going to be kind of a focal point, is Greg runs the Greg Taylor Performance Consulting, and it's in the greater St. Louis area. And to rip it from your site here, specializing in combining the latest sports psychology techniques, up-to-date research, first-hand experience to provide a process-oriented playbook to help athletes navigate the demands of our modern-day sports culture. So Greg ended up having a bunch of injuries and mental stuff, and he kind of full circle turned it into his career, his passion. I always go over who I talk to and prep for this, and this was really fun because a lot of these guys are close to me. I know them deeply. We started off with Jim Steinwart, Steiny, the longtime Springfield High School skipper, a state champ, a Hall of Famer. Timmy Ballin, for those of you that know, Springfield High School, longtime running mate. They started playing together when they were 12. I think I did a rough estimate. You guys probably played between 400 and 500 games together, all said and done. Timmy played for Lincoln Land, the Rifles, and Tusculum University. Darren Hendrickson was your skipper at Forest Park. Now he's the longtime head coach at SLU. Lelo Prado, your head coach at the Ville, longtime coach at USF, won a few natty championships at the University of Tampa, and now the longtime assistant director at USF. I also spoke with Brendan Connor, Springfield High School, IVCC, coached at Lutheran, and CS8 historian in baseball. This guy's incredible. Jaime Stash, a former guest. I called him the Bagger Vance of Springfield baseball. Lincoln Community College, Lincoln Memorial University, where he's a Hall of Famer. Kentucky Rifles in the Frontier, longtime Springfield High School assistant, and at one time Southeast head coach. Why this story is interesting to me, I think it's a must listen. I put a ton of effort into this one too, because you'll see why it's special to me, because there's parts of it that are connected to my story as well. This is the story of an All-American boy, top of the line athlete that had all the promise. Everyone thought he was pro material. Had some taste of really high level baseball, getting drafted, summer league stuff, playing at the Ville, but injuries came, mental issues came, confidence issues. I'm fascinated to hear how you look back on it, how difficult it was for you, how you've come to make peace with it. This is a brutal game, and it will chew you up and spit you out with no remorse. I know firsthand about that. I got chewed up. I've always wanted to have a guest on who went through injuries and mental stuff like myself, and I think it's really going to be a special podcast. Not only that, but like I said, he's got the GT Performance Consulting, turning his experience, into helping the next generation. So turning a negative into a positive. How I know Greg, pumped about this one. Greg was a senior when I was a freshman, and I just had all these cool memories of you, man. Like I, was really ate up by baseball, and I can remember like going to the city series, and I, just watching you pitch, and you had your glove just below your eyes, the webbing peeking over, and just this beautiful mechanics, and like I instantly changed my mechanics to be just like yours when I saw that, and I went out and got the exact same Glovesmith model you have, the 11 3/4 H-back tan web black thick Glovesmith leather. Remember that shit?
Oh yeah,
that was the good stuff. I wanted to wear number 7 like Greg Taylor. What else? Let's see. Yeah, and you had this. You were an incredible basketball player. I remember you handstand walking across the stage at an assembly or something. I don't remember what that was.
Oh yeah.
But I remember being really impressed by that. And then I was always following your career, and I saw you got drafted. I kind of always wondered what happened, and then I remember seeing you one time at the hitting center. And it was some dudes there, and it would have been when you were at the Ville. I'm sure you don't remember, maybe you do, but it would have been like Bensko and Laurent and the Canadlers, maybe O'Malley, and you had talked about how your body was kind of falling apart, and I remember you saying something kind of negative, like, "Oh yeah, I'm here, but my swing sucks," or like it wasn't the same Greg Taylor that I remember. That like there was an aura about you, that like kind of like cocksure swagger that I remember. Greg Taylor roaming the hallways in Springfield. I could see that there was, some cuts in that armor, and then I got my taste of that too. It always stuck out with me. So I don't know if you remember that at all, but I always wondered what your story was. But before we get into all of it, I would love to hear kind of like what is life like for you these days, some family stuff. And what's up, dude? Here we go.
Oh man,
That was
quite the intro, and a little bit of an ego boost, but yeah, appreciate that.
Yeah.
No, first of all, I want to say thank you, and I genuinely appreciate what you're doing. I think a lot of guys, I'm sure that you've either talked to in the past or that are listening, it's there's much appreciation. There's a lot of guys out there that can relate to some of the stories that are being shared, but it's really cool what you're doing. So first off,
thanks, buddy. I appreciate
thanks
that.
for having me.
Yeah.
And I we talked when I walked in, coming up from St. Louis and Springfield, it's it feels like home.
Yeah.
You see all the things that are familiar. Definitely opens up a can of memories and all good things. And I even told you I drove by Schlitt Park real quick.
Yeah, had to go see it.
It was like, man, I don't remember this parking lot being this small, or I don't remember this looking this way. I
know.
thought the concession stand was a lot bigger back in the day.
Right.
But
like a minor league field when you're a little kid,
for sure. And then the new turf over there.
Yeah.
Come on.
It's pretty sweet.
Yeah. But so yeah, other than that, man, thanks for having me. But family, what am I doing now? It's I think a lot of us are in that phase of our lives that we're chasing kids. We're trying to get the parenting thing right.
Yeah.
Which we all know there's not a manual for that. But as you mentioned, I'm down in St. Louis. Obviously I've started GT Performance Consulting, but also doing a full-time job, which is still within my my everyday life, which is pretty much sales and development. But it's always been within supply chain and distribution and that sort of thing. But you're never going to take sports out of a guy,
right?
And and I think that's where the path is come full circle, as you mentioned. But my kids are 13 and 11.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter Kenzie, my son Logan, my wife Jenny, just stars in themselves. Just stars. In my life, they've been blessings without a doubt. But yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm coaching.
You got some little athletes?
Oh well, yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
It's not always about the skill set. you
Yeah.
know, right out of the gate. Yeah,
Right.
they have some physical talents. They've got tools. But I always watch instincts, you know, whenever I look at talent or evaluate kids or it's like, what's their instincts like? How do they move? But you see different things, and I think they've got a chance, and they like to prepare, which is fun to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you love to practice, that's, man, what a leg up. You know, that's something that you have to have, right?
100%.
Yeah.
And I think that's needs to be valued more and definitely emphasized more.
Yeah. So what did you think when I first reached out to you?
You know, I felt honored, honestly. And we've kind of touched on it even before we came on air that you don't always know what, you know, either people think or how they perceive you or that sort of thing. And like I said, it's all that those thoughts are normal. I think a lot of people would feel that way, but super, super excited about this. And I think, you know, the more we connected and, I think there's a lot of common themes that will come out of this. And, but more importantly, it gave me an opportunity to kind of reflect and, you know, connect with a lot of people, that I hadn't connected with in a really long time.
Yeah, I love that. I've got a couple funny things that I want to touch on before we get into all of it. So I started this about 2 years ago, and actually, you know, I wanted to have all different kinds of stories. I wanted to have the guys that have been to the big leagues. I wanted to have the guys that, you know, could have been pros, but stuff happened, and there's lessons in that too. So I texted you about 2 years ago what I thought was you. So I had a Greg Taylor in my phone that I played summer ball with years ago. Haven't spoken to him since, you know. And apparently they like doubled up the numbers in there. So when I shot you a text, it was to him. So for years, or a year and a half, I'd been texting you like, this guy gets drafted in the 42nd round and he thinks he doesn't have to text anyone back.
Big leaguing
me the whole time. So that was funny. And then I finally was like, Wallen, like, what is this dude's number? Why will he not get back to me? And I was like, okay.
Full disclosure, that's been kind of a running joke because I felt like there for several years I was always changing numbers.
Really?
Whether it was you know, switching area codes from, you know, the 217 to 314, but then, you know, with jobs and different things like that, 'cause they had company phones. So that's probably weighed heavily on the reason why I didn't have the right number.
So a couple more funny things too, and I get so immersed in these podcasts before I do them, like I really think of like every little detail. And then the other night, I woke up in the middle of the night and I was like, man, is Greg Taylor a dapper or handshake guy? And I was like, oh, I don't know why I could not get it out of my head. And I texted Wallen and I was like, I know this is a ridiculous question, but do you think Greg is a dapper or handshake guy? And he was like, I think you'll know in the moment. So then it just made me think, that didn't help me.
That is such a Wallen comment too. I can just totally see him taking a deep breath before he answers. You know, you just know in the moment.
That's a great Tim impression too.
Oh, I got many.
But so I was like, you know what? I started thinking about it. And I was like, okay, Greg had a flat top in high school. That screams handshake, right?
Yeah.
Flat top screams handshake. But you know, sports guy, basketball, like I'm sure you have dapped. You've dapped before.
Yeah.
So I usually have a good feel for it. I don't like to mess it up. I feel like it messes up the energy on stuff. So anyway.
Well, and I was going to respond to you as like, no, man, I'm more of a hugger. Seriously,
we shook hands and we hugged when we got here. So that's
I feel like I make people uncomfortable sometimes. Like, no, man, let's just hug it out.
I'm totally for hugging too, man. Yeah. I'm with it. And then before we get into it, I got one funny thing. It's going to be about the flat top. So leading right into that. So the iconic flat top. I mean, had it down to like skinned on the the very middle in high school.
Oh yeah.
And I always felt conflicted about it because I personally did not think a flat top was cool. But I thought Greg Taylor was cool. So it was this battle in my mind. Somehow, how did you overcome having a flat top and still remain cool?
That's that is a great question. But I think you nailed it, right? I think there's only a couple people that could really pull it off and have the skin almost and and so
great.
Let's back up here because Jim and Jerry's. I don't know if you remember Jim and Jerry's. I think it was on Laurel. But that was the guy.
Haircut?
Jim.
That's got to be a barber, right? Barbers do flat tops. Yeah.
And I think there's quite a few guys from Springfield High that went to Jim and Jerry's. I know.
Okay.
I think Steinwart went there maybe. Okay. I can't remember. But
When he used to get haircuts.
What's that?
When he used to get haircuts, he's got wild man hair now.
Oh yeah, that we may touch on that later, but no, that was the thing. I would always want a fresh fade, especially before basketball games. But I learned very quickly early on that there's some guys that are either meant to have long hair and some guys that aren't. I was not one to have long hair. But so the flat top that remained. It was just easy. I didn't have to do anything with it, waking up in the morning. But the flat top remained until junior college.
Really? That long?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And, my nickname was given to me at JUCO by Jake Friedrich. He used to call me Sarge.
Sarge?
Yeah, Sarge.
I can see that, yeah.
And for the longest time, everybody would ask me, are you military? No.
No, I just like this haircut.
Well, because your haircut.
I just like this haircut. Where did it come from?
I think I do know. It runs in the family.
It's a family haircut?
Yeah. It was
Passed down from generations?
Yep. And that was that. It just remained.
Well, I've got another part to this. So there's another guy that's famous for his flat top that's close to you.
Oh.
Who am I going to be talking about here?
My man Stash.
My man Stashy. So Stashy's got a little something to say about your flat top.
Oh, boy.
You ready for this?
Yep.
All right, here we go. This is going to be Stashy.
Let me ask you this. Did Greg Taylor copy your flat top? He totally copied my flat top. He has to. Because that's funny you say that, because I totally wore a flat top back then, and he had a flat top as well. Kind of did a lot of mimicking together. I mean, we spent a lot of time together, and practices and games, and just because I was I did obviously a lot of infield stuff, and didn't do much with pitching. He spent most of his time with on the mound. He did was I believe it was Coach Trump back in the day, and he was there. But all the times I just look back and Greg was, man, he worked hard. Worked hard and had abilities. And I know there's times, obviously, great players and great athletes, they struggle at times, and he battled through most of that. And I know there's some time, everybody does, but he was a special player, and I think he had a little bit of pressure on him. He put a lot of pressure on himself. He did. Which isn't a bad thing, but at times that kind of hurt him back in the day a little bit, But obviously, he got a chance to go on and play college baseball. And
all right, funny story turned into more serious there, but so Stashy thinks you stole his flavor.
I'll give him that. I think he probably kept the momentum going for the flat top.
I think he still got it going, man.
Oh, I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it.
That's a for life thing for Jamie.
And a Stashy story.
Let's go.
He mentioned, we did a lot of things alike or together or whatnot, but it might have been Spirit Week or something, but he and I literally dressed as twins, and I think that was a thing back then too. It's like, oh man, you guys look alike, you act alike. And what I think is probably true a little bit, because
I can see that for sure.
It's you surround yourself with people, and they influence you in certain ways, and all good things, right? But him being one of them, he was definitely an influence, a positive influence for sure. But just what a great dude. A lot of great times together, and some great memories with him for sure.
Yeah, she's the best. He actually commented on Twin Day. I've got a clip of it. I'm going to play it.
Even better.
Yeah, Greg Taylor, Greg and I were really close back in the day. I was just kind of sitting here thinking last night when you mentioned Greg Taylor, and I just kept thinking of, well, what an athlete. What a great, not just a baseball player, but I mean, he could do a lot of things. Worked hard at it, come from a great family, Dennis and Sally, Kelly. That family was all about the sports, and I know him and Kelly, there's a little competition there, I'm sure. back in that time, just thinking back, and he just what a great kid. I very honored to get to coach that kid.
Yeah.
And he one little story outside of baseball. Greg and I were obviously pretty close. So I don't know if you remember, we always had those twin days for the homecoming and all that. And so Greg dressed up exactly like me. We dressed up like me. And him and I went to twin day together. He had a radio. Because security, all we had was radio. And I'm sure there's a picture back in the day of it. It was pretty funny. So that was
I remember that.
You remember that? Yeah.
I think
I swear that picture is in the yearbook or something.
It is.
Is it that what it is? That where it's at?
I'm almost positive.
Yeah, I remember that. That's hilarious, dude.
And I think I actually got to walk around and check on classes and stuff with him, or I may even walked in without him. They're like, "Oh, hey, Stash, that's great." Yeah.
All right, man. Well, I guess we can start getting into some of these questions here. The first one I have for you is, who have you listened to guest wise, and did anything stand out? Like, what did you enjoy about it?
Yeah, once I found out you're doing this stuff, I gravitated towards mostly the people I was
Canaglers and
close with, familiar with. Obviously JA, JU, O'Malley, Dusty, PJ. I even got back into the Corey. I'm trying to think of who else I was listening to.
Quite a bit of the lineup then.
Yeah, and I think it's again, I think what you're doing is great, but the common theme with all these is just being able to relive some of those memories, and there's always a common thread. We're all basically cut from this same cloth. DNA, baseball, sports are within our background, and ultimately it's what shapes us.
Ooh, yeah.
And I think it's you hear that, whether it's cliche but that fraternity, that brotherhood of being an athlete and
100%.
sharing some of those same experiences. But I think too, getting to hear some of that, it may sound weird, but somewhat therapeutic
100%.
in a way.
Not weird at all.
But I think as bigger picture stuff, it's like, why can't we as dudes, and when we're playing, like, be more vulnerable like that?
Yeah,
because it almost make us even better.
I totally agree. That wasn't really our era, though. Oh, yeah. I feel like that was all kind of bottled up stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. But and I think it was cool to see. Again, use the term common theme. It's how much our families and our support systems impacted our successes, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's fun to give gratitude to those people too, because
absolutely,
you really can't make it in baseball without some people supporting you.
No, absolutely not, because they are there for the good, the bad, the ugly.
Yeah,
sure. But yeah, definitely.
Love that, man. Well, tell me about some of your earliest memories of the game, Little League, anything standing out like that, memories, experiences, kind of.
Yeah.
Little League wise, I always enjoy going back to the Little League stuff, man.
Like I said, it's as soon as you start, have an idea you're going to be on this type
start thinking about it,
in
right?
this format. You go back into the archives, and if anybody is like me, it's like you've got tubs of pictures and
I do too,
ribbons and trophies and different things like that. But I literally last night, and I came across this picture of Clark Griffith, Little League.
Ooh, Clark Griffith, yeah.
And because that's where it all started.
Over at Stewart Park.
Stewart or Douglas?
Douglas. Yes,
Park.
Douglas. Yep, Douglas.
But, so I think, my mom had a company back in the day called School Bag, the School Bag. And so that was our first team.
Really?
Yep, the School Bag. And started in T-ball. Then you advance up to minors. That's when it became kid pitch.
Right.
I don't know about you, but there was never coach pitch.
I think I did like 1 year of it, maybe, or like a half a year of it, or something like that.
Okay.
I think they do a lot of, instead of coach pitch, they actually have machines now.
Oh yeah.
Is that what they're doing?
Yep. So, but I remember we transitioned right to coach pitch, or not coach pitch,
kid pitch Oh, that can be a rough couple years.
If you can imagine. I mean, I know what it's like watching kids,
Right.
you know, right now, but so that was fun. I remember, Little Douglas Park. There was, I forget what street it was, but getting to hit balls out of there. And then, graduate up to the majors. But, looking back, and you talk about, the guys you played with. But I found a picture of Dusty and I and Clark Griffith, All-Stars over in Taylorville.
Really?
You want to talk about
Benska?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
You want to talk about falling in love with the game is when you got to play at Taylorville and on the grass infield, that was the first time.
Yeah, right.
And then I remember playing Pepsi. They had these awesome baby blue uniforms. You have the scoreboard on.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember hitting my first home run there and just it was awesome. But then
one of those core memories. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And of course, my dad, he was coach in his 1980s polyester shorts.
The bike shorts?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
For sure.
Those are amazing. I'm gonna be coaching my daughter's t-ball team this year, and I've got a pair of bike shorts I'm gonna bust out for it.
Yeah.
I'm saving them.
But and then then I think we ended up over at Southwest.
Switch over to Southwest eventually.
I think it was Sitco Chiropractic.
It's one of my sponsors.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Tyler, he and his family there. Yep. And then, man, I can't remember. I think then it was, the All-Star stuff. I think we ended up with helping out or filling in for like Garrett Aviation. I think Scott Miller, his dad, his team. I think they were Indians at the time.
Okay.
And then I think it shifted to either the Flame. I know for a fact the Flame was in there, which, great memories there. And then I think it was the Lightning.
Okay.
And then the Spirit. And then Pride.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the progression.
Yeah. So I think travel ball with that Flame would have started about 13-ish for you, maybe?
I think so.
Around then?
I think so.
Yeah. And you might have already answered it there, but my next question was, when can you remember falling in love with the game? When did it grab you? And that kind of sounds like playing at Taylorville on the field, in the grass, and hitting a homer, and those are the kind of things that...
Yeah, for sure. And I'd
foster that.
And even before that, I don't know if you remember Jefferson Park.
Oh, yeah.
That's where I think Springfield High actually practiced there before moving to Vredenburg, but then all the baseball camps, and I think were
really
camps were there before I think they moved to Schlitt Park.
Okay, interesting.
But Jefferson Park, man, it was like the safe haven. It was like, my dad and I, we would go over there, just take ground balls. He'd hit me fly balls. It's just playing catch.
Yeah.
You start to really develop a love for the game just by just being around it.
Yeah.
It all has to start somewhere.
Absolutely. And that was kind of, you led right into my next one, was kind of like, what was your dad's involvement in this? My relationship with my dad is heavily built on this path of baseball and sports. Was your dad always playing catch with you, BP? Oh, yeah. That's building this, father-son relationship around that?
Yeah, definitely. He was there every step of the way. And to be honest with you, it still is.
Yeah.
There every step of the way. But he was a two-sport athlete in college. So, I remember in our basement, he had his old gym bag of his Chuck Taylors.
Oh, yeah.
His old,
classic.
Little skeet, little basketball shorts.
Yeah.
At SCI, he played baseball, basketball.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Or, no, SCI.
That sounds right.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. They definitely had a basketball team back in the day, for sure.
Yeah, so it might have been SCI. Yeah, who knows?
Okay.
But, he was there, definitely involved. Showed me the way.
Mm-hmm.
Showed me how to respect the game, play the game the right way. And I'll never forget. Much gratitude towards that guy.
I love that, man. So when do you feel like baseball switched from this is fun, rec ball with my friends, to like this is feeling more serious?
That's a great question. I think it probably started to shift. I think when you started getting in that little travel era.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep. That's what it felt like for me too.
yeah. Because not everybody, at that point, as soon as it shifted over to travel or whatever we call select back then,
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it meant a little more back then.
Absolutely.
Because it wasn't, mommy and daddy, paying to play, that pay to play model.
You had to be asked.
Yeah, it was, and
What I remember.
that was special. You almost feel like you earned it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think that's when it started to be more, I guess, shifted to a more serious type environment.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me. My next question was kind of about more of your travel ball stuff, but I think you kind of touched on it and whatnot. So unless you have anything more that is important about your travel ball stuff, we can move on to some Springfield High stuff, and I've got a lot.
Yeah, no, I think we may be able to touch on different viewpoints on travel and what what it's evolved into.
Let's do it right now.
These days. Yeah, we can shoot it. No, I think my concern with travel ball is just that it's in my opinion, I may get shot down or kicked in the shin and making comments about it, but it's the new wreck in my opinion.
It's so watered down. There's so many.
Yeah, I think it yes.
Yeah.
A little bit. I think it is watered down. I think the talent pool is a little bit different.
Yeah.
But again, it's the idea is to continue for us as coaches and adults to just create interest and see sports for what they are, and it's a vehicle to new experiences, and that is the number one thing. It's how do we keep kids interested?
Yeah.
And how do we create a path for them to use a term, it's physical literacy. It's like how do we get kids to really continuously enjoy moving and being a part of, whether it's competition and I'm getting pretty deep on this, but it's like it's the life skill development.
Yeah.
In baseball, in my opinion, I argue with people a lot. Like, well, what's the sport that is the most like life, or what's the whatever it is.
Baseball's got the most failure in it.
Absolutely. And it baseball, right? If you think about it, right, let's peel it back a little bit. The amount of time that you have to wait, the patience in between success and not an ideal outcome. I hate using failure, but it's that you don't get the ideal outcome.
Yeah.
And it just burns, right?
It sits with you.
Yeah. And but you always know there's going to be another opportunity.
Yeah.
And that's just the flow of the game.
Beautiful. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I digress. I go different directions, but deep in thought on that. But
I mean, like, are your kids going down that route of these travel ball, type club teams and stuff like that?
Blake, I often say it. I'm doing something that I said I would never do.
What's that?
Which is play club baseball.
Really?
Or play club sports.
Yeah.
But to my point, it's completely different. It's the new rec, because you're almost forced into it.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily, fear of missing out or this, that, or the other. It's just, the leagues aren't as supported as they once were.
Mm-hmm.
The funding's not there. So some of these leagues, they're just trying to stay afloat.
Yeah.
It's becoming obsolete in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's no fault to anybody. I mean, if I was a owner or a club owner, like, and you're making money, you got this business model, 100%.
Yeah.
More power to you.
Mm-hmm.
But I just want to make sure that everybody is pulling in the same direction.
Yeah.
Our hearts and our minds are in the right place and doing it for the right reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And that, in my opinion, is just to keep kids moving.
Love that. Keep kids moving. Yeah. Some gold nuggets there. I love that stuff.
Yeah.
That was a perfect answer. We're on to our Springfield High stuff if you're ready to go there.
boy.
Yeah. So 4-year starter, got called up as a freshman. And, that had some dudes on that. That was like Knadlers and some of those guys and the Randy Rices and like some of those names, right?
Let's not forget one of my favorites, Matt Nunn.
Oh, the Nunn brothers.
The Nunn bros. Mark.
What was his nickname?
Oh.
Tim know it.
Yeah, Tim probably know. Oh.
Say it.
I don't think was it Dookie?
Big Dookie.
Big Dookie. Yep. Big Dookie. Yeah.
So what do you remember about that freshman year, about your experience? I see here, 3.93 ERA in 46 innings, batted .222 with 54 at bats. What was it like getting called up as a freshman with some of those dudes?
It's somewhat of a blur, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm having to go way back, but I felt I always knew that there was a chance. One, just because I believed it.
Yeah.
It's you look at the supporting cast, the guys you're potentially could be playing with, the spots that were, some of the voids that needed to be filled. But I mean, to your point, man, anytime you look at a roster, it's like, man, just the guys, the opportunities, the talent that was up there. And to your point, it's the Knadlers, it's Nuns, it's Rusky was up there, Randy. There was an opportunity to help, and I think that's. I think I can only speculate that Coach thought I may be able to help him on the mound, play some defense, and I think that was one why I ended up there. But I was super excited. It's a little bit of ignorance. Like, I probably didn't even know any better at that time. It's like, all right, yeah, I'm just going to go play baseball with, they're asking me to play.
Good.
But no, it was exciting.
Was that your goal coming into that year at all? Anyway.
It's a good question. I don't even know where my headspace was back then, but I think at the end of the day, I 100%, I'd say it. I'll just be honest. Like, yeah, I wanted to play varsity.
Yeah.
I wanted to play varsity.
Yeah.
I knew I could play varsity, but what's real?
Yeah.
What's reality? What's realistic? Just kind of managing those expectations.
Yeah, love that. We've got some. How about we go on to some Steiny stuff?
Sure.
To get us kind of kicked off here, and it's a great lead-in because he kind of had this one clip about you, kind of before you as an 8th grader. This is the 8th grade story. Here we go.
It's funny that you asked that. I remember specifically watching him as an 8th grader at Fairview Park. He played for the Indians. I watched him pitch, and I don't know why. I think maybe he had been at camp or something, and I knew who he was, and I needed to get out of the house with the kids, because that's typically around the time I ran them out to all the local games to watch you guys. And it was right away. I saw him as like, I think this guy could play with us now. I mean, just very athletic. He had, back in the day, there was probably bigger emphasis on mechanics, and he looked like you saw with Mark Pryor, where it's like, that's how a guy's supposed to look when they pitch.
Yeah.
And so it's not mechanical. It's actually the opposite. It just flowed. It was just very smooth. You could tell he'd had a bunch of reps, and it was just ahead of what most kids are at that age. And, and he was kind of wiry, skinny, maybe a little bit taller than average for that period. So you could just tell that this kid can play.
Yeah. What about
Got anything?
Yeah.
When was the last time that you heard his voice?
What's that?
When was the last time that you heard Steiny's voice?
Believe it or not, it's been a while since he and I've talked, but we'll text. I think we text. I can't tell if he's on a flip phone or if he's still got a flip phone.
Yeah, so
okay.
Get stuff from him. Like, he sends me stats and stuff. It's through his wife, June. She has to send him through her phone. Sorry to bust you out there, Jim. I'm sure he doesn't care.
No. Yeah, and I always give him trouble too. But I have not talked directly to him. But yeah, it's been over text. But I've full disclosure, he's a dude that I lean on a lot in certain phases and certain times in my life. So it's good to hear his voice.
I love hearing that, Ben. Let's move on to another one.
Well, let me backtrack on that clip there.
Yeah.
I want to give a shout out to my old man, because mechanically we did put a lot of reps in, but also Roger Erickson was my
baseball school,
was my only pitching lesson I ever had.
You can pitch.
Yeah, and but he really emphasized leg kick. And
big one. I remember your knee getting all the way up into your chest.
Okay, so but I Nolan Ryan, like that dude.
Mechanics were very similar.
And okay, well that's where it came from. And then going to Roger, like he was like, super emphasized leg kick, and that's where I felt like. Yeah, obviously a lot of, power came from as far as velocity, but, just keeping things simple. I never did an overhead wind up.
Right.
I just keep it at the belly, and that was it. That was it. Just keep it simple, let it flow, let it eat.
And you remember that old, his baseball school moved around a few times, but you remember the old van he had too?
Oh, yeah.
Had Christmas lights on it.
Yep.
He was a character.
Love that dude, man. He's probably haven't heard my name, or he probably didn't even remember me, but yeah, that was the dude.
I love that. Yeah, a lot of people got some great instruction from old Roger Erickson.
Mm-hmm.
Next one's going to be Steiny. I didn't have to tell him what to do.
He always, he had a passion for the game, so he'd always do the extra, always do, you didn't have to tell him what to do. He would do it and do it on his own. He always, he had a passion for the game, so he'd always do the extra, always do, you didn't have to tell him what to do. He would do it and do it on his own. That part was easy. I don't ever remember having to deal with anything of lack of effort or anything like that. But he was with a group that was similar. I think they all fed off each other. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of easy to get out of the way. These guys got it. Just, keep them in their lane, be the bumpers in bowling once in a while if they hedge off. But, man, they were pretty focused and loved the game. And that's really easy to coach because that's not common.
About you guys, I think of your senior season, and you guys were just, I thought, stacked, right? And just I had a great team 1 through 9 and some pitching too.
Yeah, I would agree. And it's, you look at that team, how much we cared for each other was, I think, unique. Especially, being, 16, 17-year-old dudes. And I think we genuinely cared for each other. And I think that was, like I said, unique. But, the camaraderie we had, I remember we all shaved our heads, and but just the team dinners we did once a week were special. And I think that started, early on, even as an underclassman, but, we tried to carry that tradition on. But I think also, too, the roster, we were pretty deep, especially from a pitching staff.
You had Timmy, and I didn't even realize how strong of a year Kevin
Rito, for sure. And that was one.
6 something?
Yeah, that was one guy that
you forget about, right? Because it was always you and Timmy.
Well, no, I didn't forget about him because he was. He was a horse.
Absolutely. Went on to play at Lincoln Land Shove there.
Yep. Yeah, and I think he had some other opportunities later on, but
played some ball in Europe.
Yeah. Yep. Rito and Miff
had a nasty deuce on him.
Yeah, Miff. Just all around, and I think even too, like Rusty, Brendan Connor, and I think some of the underclassmen at that time, or even juniors, I think Ledbetter, Vicari, Sailing.
Right. Really
So
talented guys that weren't even in the lineup all the time because you guys were so stacked.
no, and that's kudos to them. I think that would go for any team. It's like, maximize the opportunity, and I think a lot of those guys did. And we maximized, collectively what we were able to do. Unfortunately, it didn't go so well there in our sectional, but we had a crew, I think, that could have, continued to do some damage, but I think it might have been Muhammad Seymour got us. Yep. Yeah. So, but even you talk about positions that were super important, right? Huff was a catcher. I think he was advanced as far as how he managed games and managed pitchers. I think that was he created a comfort back, when we were on the mound. So, he was an integral part too. So, yeah. And man, Scotty Miller, God love him. That
before his UCL before the season. Right?
Yeah.
What was that game?
Incredible.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. But that guy, one of my best friends still is to this day, and just gave his heart and soul, and like I said, we all cared for each other, which was super cool.
Yeah, love that.
Yeah.
Let's move on to a few. Yeah, that team is a special place in my heart too. I can remember watching you guys as a freshman and being like, man, I really want to do that someday. And yeah, anyway, all right, Steiny, place in history.
But he was just being in the top 15 of so many categories.
Yeah,
just tells you how well-rounded he was. I mean, he could hit, he could pitch, he could field. And you could see me. He played for us today, and we didn't have a team like we did. I'd probably have him playing all over the place. I mean, he was so good at short. I mean, but you could have put him anywhere. I remember. I think younger. I think he caught a little too. I mean, which he easily could have done. Yeah, I can't really see or think of a position he couldn't have played.
No,
he'd been fine at every one of them because he's that good of an athlete. Oh, I still have some great memories. Anytime we won a game, he'd play. We'd get on a bus, and we had those cassette boom boxes back then, and he'd pop in Another One Bites the Dust and crank that thing. It's like, Greg, wait till we got a parking lot at least. Don't do it while the other team's here. I mean, we might see this team in the regional. They don't need to be hearing us playing that when we're leaving. And he got a big charge out of that. I mean, his whole group was fun and funny. And that was it. He'd get on that bus and click, hit play, and boom, it would go. Another one bites it. That was hilarious. It would just crack us up. That just stood out as one of my favorite things. And he had to run it. He had to be in charge of that every time we got on. So, yeah, that was always a good laugh.
Yeah. So where did that one come from? That idea?
I have no idea. I don't know if it was just one of those in the moment type deals that it just kind of stuck. But yeah, I don't know. But what's funny is probably either within the last year or so, I just get this random text, and it's Steinwart sending me this video, and I think Trump was on there. The Trumper, but I can't remember who else was on. It might have been it was a couple of different, but they're in the gym, they being the Senators baseball team, and they're playing Another One Bites the Dust over the loudspeaker in the big gym. So yeah, that was funny. So no, I can't really tell you where that came from, but I love it every time I hear it. So it's good stuff.
Okay, we're back rolling here. We'll get into some more Steiny clips here. Let's go. We got two more. We got Stash comparison number 1, and then Don't Talk to Me.
Greg just he's also, I always laugh because he was pretty tight also with Coach Stash. Surprise, surprise. But he was very much like him in a lot of ways. But he's also like him in that whatever he picked up, he could do. I mean, he could have been a stud football player, stud wrestler.
I agree. Yep.
If he wanted to go bowling, he'd roll near 200 without ever doing it. I mean, he's just one of those guys that
I agree.
Whatever they touch, they're good at. Just a good athlete.
Yeah,
and
fantastic athlete.
Yeah, and because he was such a thinker, he would think his way into messes at times. You start playing the what ifs, the doubt yourself, things that pro guys deal with all the time, and why they all have psychologists on board now is because that's what gets in their way. And he was one of the first ones that I used to spend time just listening to and trying to work through some of that, because it's just, man, if you just let it go, you're fine. And he knew that. He recognized that, and I think that's his joy now, is being able to help others work through that kind of stuff, because it's pretty common. I mean, you can't find a team that doesn't have multiples. It's just not as talked about, or it wasn't at the time, talked about openly, because you thought something was wrong with you. And it's like, no, you're normal. That's just something that people think you've got a problem, but no, that's how normal people deal with things when they're insightful and care. And well, but he was fun because some of the struggles were things that we could have private conversations about. It was really easy for me to sit with him and chat, but on game days, one of the funny things was he refused to talk to me when he was pitching. Which,
really?
And you know how goofy pitchers are, so I think he heard or read about one of them and said, I'm not talking to you on game day when I'm pitching. It's like, okay, Mr. Tough Guy. But at the same time, we would have some of the really closest, deepest thinking conversations, which is why it's no surprise what he's gone into. I really look forward to him getting up here someday, because I want to hear about it, because I love that part of the game as much as anything. Yeah. And I knew how that was both a roadblock and a kind of propelled him to some things.
Yeah. You got any thoughts? I've got a few questions based on.
Oh, yeah, he just took us down a path.
Let's go.
It took me down a path to where I can't even come up with my thought here.
You want me to keep going here?
I need a
Give me that.
a second.
Okay, we're back. We took a little break there. So, Greg, what you got, buddy?
No, I was in just on the clip of Steiny. What's funny is I actually towed the line, to say, for lack of better words, but on the football side. And growing up, like football, everybody played football.
Right.
That was the thing. And I actually went to a practice. I watched from the track, and I was like, I don't know if I can get into this. Not really. Just because I'd never played JFL, never got into football. To this day, I still don't even know all the positions, which is funny, I guess, for a lot of people. It's like,
I would have guessed that.
Yeah. So, but no, I thought about football and then never followed through. And I think really it was, okay, well, does it jeopardize, me falling on a shoulder, getting tackled, or, taken away from basketball and even baseball, of course. But, and then the other comment on that clip was, whether we knew it or not, or he knew it or not, Steiny was ahead of his time as far as really starting to pay more attention to the mental side. And I don't know if it was me that triggered that, or, obviously he's got other guys, but I think to his point, we started to have some more in-depth conversations about it.
That when I spoke with him, yeah.
And because I was hyper focused on just about anything and everything I had to do with sports, somewhat to my detriment.
Yeah.
But just
when did that start?
Yeah. Well, I've got so many in hindsight and reflection type.
Back, like, oh, that's when it started. Like, oh, wow.
So, yeah, I'll just go down them because I've put these things down on paper. I've got different documents I've put together just because of this. But
if you want to go in more chronological order, you can. But if you feel like you want to start going,
yeah, no, absolutely. And because I think it gives the the bigger picture of it. Okay. So I remember Soccer World, Pete's place, Chateau Village.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Still there.
So I remember playing, well, not even playing, indoor soccer. and at least I was on the team briefly, because every single game before you even kicked off, like I had to leave the field, like to the point where like it was somewhat nervous, anxiety, panic stuff. And so, all right, well, again, looking back, so, wow, all right, is that a thing? Is that not a thing?
Right. You don't know what's going on with you.
Yeah.
Right?
And then, then it turned into, all right, well, let's go check and see if there's something going on, blah, blah, blah. Because anytime I got going, like as far as running.
How old is this?
Shoot, man, it's probably 7-ish.
Okay.
But then we started to play outdoor soccer. And so I'd go so hard to the point where I would literally throw up on the field. And, then it became like, all right, well, should we not get enough cinnamon rolls before the game and this, that, and the other? But so then it became, all right, well, let's go get it checked out. Then it was identified as like sports-induced asthma. Okay, fine. But, if you do the research and you look at it, obviously asthma will trigger some sort of anxieties and things like that. So you can come hand in hand. So I went through this huff and puff program through Memorial Hospital. And it was specific to asthmatic kids and how to help them cope and things like that. And it was an opportunity, looking back, because I got to meet an Olympian. I was on the news with, I don't even remember, Susan Finson back in the day. They did a piece on it. I was with Jeanette Bolden. She is the gold medal sprinter. She had sports-induced asthma. But, fast forward and even through just growing up, I even basketball, same thing would happen. I would go so hard, I'd be so intense in the game, I'd forget to breathe, and then it's like, next thing you know, I've got water coming up on the basketball court. But I tell a story, and people are like, oh, this is gross, but I wore 2 shirts, but kind of like that wife beater looking white shirt underneath, because in case I had to something during the game.
Really?
Yeah.
Does it soak into it?
Yeah, it was. It's it's stuff you don't realize, and it's kind of that you don't know what's going on, because you don't see it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was one of those things, and you start to overthink it. Some different things, but yeah, Steiny, he was ahead of his time.
Yeah. And
I think was really, really cool. But then me going down this path, it's I want to help people. I want to help people, one, be able to recognize, what's going on, help them, figure out how to respond to those different situations. But then ultimately,
you didn't.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, how do you help them recover in different situations? So those are my 3 R's. Honestly, it's like, recognize, respond, and recover.
Yeah.
But and then also I think it's true. There's a quote out there that's you find yourself through the service of others, and whether Steinwart knew that or not, I mean, I often lean on him. I go back to a lot of our conversations, and he's not only helped me, but a ton of different ball players through the years. So, which is pretty darn cool.
Man, I knew that our stories had some similarities, and I had a soccer issue too. When I was a little kid playing soccer in the YMCA, our coach would split us into, you get 2 quarters. Everyone on the team got 2 quarters. It'd either be the first and the third, or the second and the fourth. I could not play in the first quarter because I would be so nervous about the game and performing that I would be in the bathroom thinking that I had to go to the bathroom, but I didn't have to go. It was just my stomach and knots.
Yeah.
Feeling like and then I go out and score like 1 million goals, but
yeah,
every game. And like we didn't know what it was. It was just like, oh, Blake's just nervous. But looking back, those were seeds of like deeper things to come.
Yeah. Exactly. And it's the reality. It's like you don't know what's going on until you only know what you know.
Right.
But yeah, good stuff.
That's great. I know you're going to keep dropping all this awesome knowledge bombs on us here. Let's go. Did I hear you do place in history? I don't think so. Oh, you know what? Don't talk to me. Let's do that. Tiny, don't talk to me. Do you already know where this is going?
I have no idea, but I can only imagine.
but he was fun because some of the struggles were things that we could have private conversations about. It was really easy for me to sit with him and chat, but on game days, one of the funny things was he refused to talk to me when he was pitching. Really, and you know how the goofy pitchers are, so I think he heard or read about one of them, and he said, "I'm not talking to you on game day when I'm pitching." I go, "Okay, Mr. Tough Guy." But yeah, at the same time, we would have some of the really closest, deepest thinking conversations, which is why it's no surprise what he's gone into. I really look forward to him getting up here someday because I want to hear about it because I love that part of the game as much as anything. And I knew how that was both a roadblock and a kind of propelled him to some things.
That's cool that you and Steiny had that kind of relationship and that he was talking about some mental stuff. Can you give us any kind of idea about what you guys were kind of discussing back and forth in that? Was it your stuff or was it just general concepts of, sports performance and psychology and stuff like that? Or?
Yeah, to actually be able to give details on it. I mean, hell, it was, 25 years ago. But, I probably approached him a lot with some of the same things that I approached my dad with, and others, just because I was always seeking different perspective. And I remember just conversations like, man, is what I'm thinking or how I'm viewing this or perceiving this, is it normal? And I think a lot of that is normal, because for anybody. But I was just so, I use the term a lot, hyper-focused, because I know, all the studying and just the research I've done, and like being hyper-focused is a thing. And it's tough. But I think he and I think more we tried to get through it together a lot more, because it's when you sit in front of people and try to help, sometimes you don't know what to say. Absolutely. And when you do find the right thing to say, or you don't even know if you've said the right thing, it actually is the time where it resonates the most. Yeah. But I don't know if I really answered your question, but
I think it's crazy that I saw you as this swaggering, guy on top of the world, like Greg Taylor is, and never questions himself, right? And like inside, there was a lot more going on.
Yeah,
I'm sure a lot of people would have looked at you and thought that.
Well, and there's probably a lot of truth to that, and a thing I often talk about with my clients and athletes I deal with is body language.
Yeah. But you had great body language.
Well, that was an emphasis.
You were trying to.
Oh,
was it remember the old Steinwart thing, chest out, butt out?
He used to use me as an example.
Was it you?
Yeah, he always hit his chest.
It was like, I get it, chest out, butt out, but when he would actually execute it looked a little funny sometimes. It was a little bit like someone had like a spinal injury.
Yeah,
like that. He would really stick his chest and his butt out. It was you.
I don't know. I because I just remember him saying that at one point. And
yeah, he would. Chest,
yep. Yeah. But body language, again, to my earlier points, you just don't know what's going on, but seeing is believing.
Did your teammates?
I don't know. I don't know. But from the time in high school, especially baseball, like it wasn't even a thing.
Right.
Like I was probably one of the most confident dudes you'd be around in high school. But there were times where, just like anybody else, that you would find yourself struggling. But again, we've hit on it earlier. It's like, if I knew then what I know now, and that's the whole goal, is to be able to help people get out of their own way.
Is any part of that maddening to you? Like, if you had the skills and mental tool set that you have now, like, obviously things could have been different for you, or is that just like, it was what it was and you're at peace with that?
Yeah, I mean, you can go down that path too, but I think it's unproductive. But yeah,
Well said.
I'd be lying to you if I said I didn't have those what ifs. But I've gotten into the habit and the ability to check myself really quick because, like I said, it's not productive.
Yeah.
You know, it's I love another quote that, you know, our greatest joy is our sorrow unmasked. And so, you know, how do we get to where we are, or how did I get to the point where I made a decision, you know, a conscious decision to go out and, you know, pursue sports psychology and mental performance enhancement, those types of things, because again, it's a lot of reflecting. But I looked at it as, man, I can contribute, I can impact. If I can just help one kid or one coach or one athlete, you know, see some light and see some hope that this is normal. Here's what you can do to you know, cope with some of this stuff. Like, that's exactly what I wanted to do.
I love that. Did you feel kind of alone going through some of these things in ways?
Yeah, there's again, I think anybody would tell you it's an isolating, it's a lonely.
I absolutely.
It's yeah, it's a tough spot. I got into some really dark times. Again, people didn't know it.
Right.
And until I truly allowed myself to be vulnerable. And a lot of people know it. I'm an emotional dude. I'll cry at the drop of a hat. You know, if I watch a movie, whatever. I get goosebumps when I talk to kids and I'm in front of people and getting to talk about sports because why? It's passion. And whenever I give talks to teams and groups, I say a couple different things. If it's a team, I say, check your ego at the door and be vulnerable. And I might cry. Yeah. And just prepare for me to cry. Yeah. But there's nothing wrong with that. And it's passion.
Oh, man, I love that. Yeah, we're kind of just going off into a little tangent.
Oh, man.
No, please don't apologize if that's what you're about to do. This is incredible. This is like, I've always wanted this kind of a guest to come on because I remember feeling very isolated myself. And I always saw you as like a leader too. Is that how you kind of saw yourself too? It's hard to lead when you're trying to deal with your own stuff. My own example is like every team I was ever on, every coach always urged me to step up more as a leader, but I always had so much going on to keep my own shit together. Mm-hmm. And it was difficult at times. Did you feel that at all? Or?
Yeah, I think high school, again, not so much because a lot of the things that were not necessarily not necessarily painful, but more struggles didn't really occur until probably, you know, after high school.
Okay.
But I think I took a lot of pride in leading by example, playing the game the right way, you know, just doing what Steinwart would always call the controllables.
Yeah. Right.
Do the controllables.
Sure.
And that was, I think, probably the main thing. But vocal leadership, I honestly, I don't even remember if I was that vocal.
You guys just had so many guys pulling in the same direction. You probably didn't need someone to be like,
no. And to your point, we did. We had a lot of guys that had been through there. They knew what the expectations were. Yeah. I mean, there's no surprises. Right. It's like, these are the steps within our process that are going to get us to that ideal outcome. And whether we always follow that, not so much. But yeah, I don't think there was a whole lot of quote unquote leadership that needed to be had with that, especially our 2000 team.
Yeah, it was a special team.
Yeah.
We'll get to that. I've got the whole roster here, but let's move on. We've still got some more Springfield High stuff, but let's move on to our sophomore year, 1998. Huge jump, man, 418. So
418,
225 to 418, 2 home runs, 3 triples, 61 innings pitched, 3.18 in 15 games. quite the jump in, performance. What do you attest this?
Yeah,
Let's talk about this year.
No, it's good. I think familiarity is and comfort has a lot to do with it, and just overall development. From an approach standpoint, just understanding what expectations were, but experience is just the number one thing that is just so overlooked. And having that experience to be with, the varsity as a freshman, clearly made a difference. I think I may have played a JV game. I can't remember in my high school career. But just having the experience as a freshman, being around the guys, seeing the pace of the game, how dugouts were chirping and different things like that. It's, if you weren't used to it, it'd be like, oh my God.
Right.
But just having gone through the experience, I think definitely contributed to that jump. Hitting wise, I don't think I was.
That felt pretty good that year.
Right. Yeah, but it's. I think hitting in the lineup also has its advantages in certain.
Where you were at in the lineup?
Yeah, I think I was probably lower in the lineup because we had obviously the Canadlers. Let's not forget about Chef, Rusky, Randy, Coonsey. Man, who else? Tim obviously was there.
Tim.
But no, I can't remember exactly where I was in the lineup. But probably hitting lower. Got to see some better pitches, and you just let the right horses in the barn run the race, and that was the guys at the top, and I was just there to help the ball club support those guys.
Canadler brothers, they're kind of known for being like standout guys, leadership type guys. Do you feel like you took anything away from them or watching them do stuff?
Sure, absolutely. Anybody that, not to sound funny, anybody that came before us, anybody that came before you, and you just observe. And I think that's what I was really, really good at, was observing how they went about their business, how they approached the game. And I think that in itself, it was funny because I think Jason and Justin, they would take their turns on who was, more vocal leadership, and they'd get after each other every once in a while.
Each other,
yeah,
pretty hard. Yeah,
the K team. But yeah, I think the best way to lead is just lead by example, and I think they did just that, and which was pretty cool. So,
does anything else stand out from this year that you feel like is worth talking on?
Sophomore year, man, dude, I got to go into the vault.
Solid year. Were you playing varsity basketball this time too?
Yeah. I was getting a little my little cup of tea, a cup of coffee at the varsity level. I remember the 4-8 team, but I also remember Randy beating me out by a point on batting average that year.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, Randy. Everyone likes to. Whenever that guy's name comes up, people a little sparkle in guys' eyes. Just how special of an athlete that guy was. You got any thoughts?
Nah, everybody's hit on it. Like, he is just a stand-up guy.
Yeah.
He always supported me, and I think that was a special thing too. That those guys embraced me. They supported me. They were pulling for me.
Yeah.
Similar to our 2000 team. I think a lot of similarities to that. Was it 98 team?
Yeah, 98.
And that's so true.
Yeah.
And I think that's what that camaraderie, that team aspect was huge.
And I guess I haven't announced it yet, but I've been in touch with Randy Rice, and he's going to come on as a guest.
Yes,
we're going to do the Randy Rice. I mean, he's like I've said, he's kind of like our Springfield smaller Bo Jackson. Like there's like this mythical stories about him and his athleticism and what he could do, and everyone was like, he could have gone pro in this sport or this sport or this sport. Oh, that was a question that I had for you. When Steinwart was talking about you being this phenomenal athlete and whatnot, was there any sport that you felt like you're curious how you would have done with it?
Basketball.
What?
Basketball.
Basketball?
Yeah.
Like if you had just pursued that further?
Well, yes, but I had some. One size was not on my side.
You had 2?
Yeah, ish.
Yeah,
somewhere in there.
Let me rephrase my question. A sport you didn't play that you thought, everyone talked about your athleticism. You could have been good at any sport. Is there any sport you're curious how good you could have been had you chose that?
I think football.
Football?
Yeah.
I was thinking, this guy's got quarterback written all over him. Why were you not a quarterback?
Yeah. Like I said, I towed the line. If you can picture in like Field of Dreams when Doc's getting ready to step over the line and change over, but like it was one of those where, yeah, could I have done it?
On paper, it made sense, right? Like the size, the athleticism, the arm, the leadership. You're like, you've got quarterback written on you.
Yeah,
yeah.
There was always the hey, why don't you come out and try this? And I was like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah.
So,
but you played soccer for a year, like your freshman year or something like that?
So I did.
Brendan Connor always says that he messes with a guy that was in your grade that was like all-state or something like that, and he says Greg was better than you. You know what I'm talking about? AJ Peterson?
I think it was AJ.
Yeah, AJ Peterson.
I think it was AJ. Yeah, he was a stud.
Yeah.
But no, soccer was because I quit after freshman year, and I think on JV I played JV as a freshman, and the one thing that I wish, because I would have had a state championship ring, if I would have played that following year with Kress and Stutler, or was it Stutler? Stutler was already gone, but Kress and some of those other guys. But I was like, man, that'd been cool to have a state championship ring, because I think AJ got it that year.
Yeah.
But no, all in fun. It was good.
Yeah. I'll never forget doing that handstand. When did you learn that you could or start handstand walking?
I think it was probably a couple hours before.
Are you serious?
I swear. No. It was an assembly.
Yeah.
Mrs. Pence and I, it's like, hey, what do you want to do? Blah, blah, blah. And I can't remember why we were even out there, what we were doing. I was like, yeah, I was trying to I think she said, hey, can you handstand? I was like, sure. And so we did it. And
I mean, he didn't just handstand, he handstand walked. That's really hard to do.
Yeah. And
hours before? You hadn't been doing that since you were like 12 years old?
I mean, I probably, just did it playing around, but like not to that extent.
Did you ever do it again after that?
I have no idea. I don't think so. I can probably,
perfect game.
Yeah.
That's
never.
Hilarious.
Never.
Okay. Cool. Well, then if you're fine with that, I'd love to hear moving on to junior year here.
Mm-hmm.
We've still got Brendan Connor and Timmy Ballin to get through, but let's get through. Let's talk a little bit about junior year and then get into some more quotes here. So, 1999, 390 average, 3 dings, 5 triples, 8 doubles, 40 runs scored, 37 innings pitched with a 5 ERA. So I'm a little curious about that one. What stands out about this year? Were there any injuries or anything like that? And then, we're sorry, I don't want to give you too many questions at once. So what stands out about that year? What do you remember?
Well, just hitting on that 5 ERA, I remember seeing good old Pete Stolt a lot.
Okay, so Pete, with Athletic Care.
Athletic Care, and then Brian Mathiat.
Mm-hmm.
Those are my 2 guys that really took care of me that year. But yeah, there was definitely an arm injury, and I don't know if it was just arm fatigue but I know in that back region, I struggled. Okay. It was, there's probably different contributing factors, whether it's, mechanically it was overuse or whatever, or maybe just not enough arm care.
Yeah.
But I don't know my innings that year. I don't know if there was a spike in that, but
37 innings pitched, so down.
So very much so down.
Essentially.
Yeah. Yep.
Was it a conversation like my arm's just not feeling good, so they just didn't run you out there as much, or how'd that?
No, I mean it was. If I recall correctly, I was having to go get training room treatments and things of that nature.
Managing playing shortstop and pitching is really difficult too, or it was for me. My arm was always hanging because of trying to do that balance.
Yeah, I don't. It's hard to remember what I was feeling physically. I knew after I pitched, I could definitely feel it the next day or a couple days after playing short.
Were you starting to get any college attention or pro attention at this time or anything like that?
And
When did that start?
It might have been junior year. I do. I remember junior year I was getting some letters. Well, I know one was Duke.
Really?
I don't know why that one stands out. Probably because I was like, I'd rather go there play basketball.
Pretty cool.
But
how you getting seen by Duke?
that's a great question.
Because that's back in the day.
I have no idea.
Wasn't internet clips or?
I have no idea. No idea.
Wild for a Southern team like that to be snooping around the Midwest.
I remember. I think somebody handed me the letter when I was at school, and I don't know if it was coach or somebody, and I can't remember if it was junior or senior year. But anyway, my memory is a little fuzzy as to when all this was the recruiting started. But I know going to like some of these, they didn't have showcases.
No, nothing like that
But
in our day.
I feel like there was some like pro scout stuff that was going on where you'd go and you run 60s and things like that. But I can't remember if that was. Yeah. I can't remember if it was between like junior and senior year or when it was, but I knew I felt the confidence building when there was a guy by the name of Cookie. And I don't remember the scout's full name.
Tim Brownlee.
Is it?
Twins?
Yeah.
Yeah, Brownie.
Yep. And he sat down. What?
Yeah, Cookie. I remember that was his nickname. Yeah.
And so I remember he's sitting down, probably had a big wad in.
He always had like dip all over his stuff. Like, shoe everywhere.
And so he sat down, and I think my dad and I were sitting up in the stands or something. He's like, son, you got a lot of tools. And he, right there, first time anybody called me a 5-tool player. And
Hello said you were the toolsiest guy on the bill when you were there.
Yeah. And so that, I was like, okay. All right, okay. And that's when you start that
right. You're like, oh,
that chest up butt or whatever.
Absolutely.
But that's when I started to really feel like there was that path was then became baseball.
Yeah.
We talked about basketball. Love basketball. Basketball is my number one.
Really,
just from the
from the sake of like pure joy playing it.
Yeah.
Basketball over baseball?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, but again, it shifted
right.
Obviously to baseball. But there's, I can remember that being a time where I really knew that was the path.
Yeah. Who else came calling college-wise?
So I remember Miami, Ohio.
Is that the Canadian connection in some way?
I can't remember I think so. Because that would have been senior year. So they would already been at Miami of Ohio.
Sure, you got to come look at this guy, Greg
Yeah,
Taylor.
I think it was Tracy Smith.
Yeah,
he came.
He's now the University of Michigan.
Is he?
Head coach.
Okay. But Miami of Ohio, Eastern Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
But really, I wasn't recruited real heavily out of high school, and every place that was recruiting me was for pitching.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Not as a shortstop?
No.
What was your velo up to in high school, Max?
I think I might have spiked or topped out about, the one game I remember.
Touched 90 a few times?
No.
No?
I don't think so.
I swear, Brandon Connor swears that you were like touching low 90s or something.
I don't know. I remember the one game where Darren came and I was pitching. I think he had me topping out at 86 or something.
Okay.
Now, who's to say like I was, amped up and on some games I was probably throwing harder.
Sure.
I mean, that's normal. But I probably worked at anywhere between, 86 to 84.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But.
And then, so obviously Darren Hendrickson came. He was the head coach at Forest Park at that time. Did you sign before your senior year or was it during?
Dude, I can't even remember.
No idea.
It had to have been during.
Yeah.
Or maybe I wasn't.
It's hard getting old, isn't it, Greg?
Yes, it is.
The funny thing is, multiple times during this, he and I have lost kind of our train of thought and had to pause and kind of figure it out. Piece it back together.
Yeah, no, I can't even remember,
But I can definitely remember starting to get some D1 school sniffing around me too, and feeling like, oh man, I'm pretty special. I got something going here, right?
Yeah.
Shifts it to like, were you thinking pro ball at this point, or like this was a goal, or?
So no. Short answer is no.
Okay.
Short answer is no. Were there people saying like, oh yeah, to the point I made about Cookie saying a 5-tool player, blah blah blah. Like, yeah, I mean, was that on the mind? Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Especially, you see, going back as far as Corey, like that was the first dude that I witnessed, getting an opportunity. You see other guys get those opportunities, obviously Jason Worth and Knadlers and some of these other guys. And so it's like, all right, well, yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah. But I think I was very realistic as to where I was at and the development I still needed, more so between the years.
Yeah.
And because, again, I think that's the differentiator in just about every player that gets an opportunity.
How did you end up signing or deciding that, Forest Park was where you wanted to go versus these other places?
It's a good question. And I say this a lot because I get asked a lot. I want to create my own path.
Right. And now a few words from our sponsors. Thank you. This episode is being brought to you by Eric Easley of the Easley Real Estate Team with the Real Estate Group. This team consists of Eric, Jamie Murphy, and Caitlin Fry. They can be reached at 217-971-3256 or at theeasleysalesteam.com. Eric was a standout quarterback and shortstop at Southeast back in the mid-90s and later starred at Western Illinois in baseball. Also one of the best umpires around this area for many years, teaming up with Bobby Erickson. He sold houses for all kinds of baseball dudes in the area. The Knadler brothers, Justin and Jason, Ryan Murphy, Todd Schneller, the Savota family. And when it was time for Corey to sell his house and buy his new house, there's only one place he went. That's Eric Easley and the Easley Real Estate Team. So go see these guys for all your real estate needs. We really appreciate you. We are also brought to you by Cardinal Cleaning. They can be reached at cardinalcleaningonline.com and 217-679-6567. The owner-operator, Adam Springer, local baseball dude, family friend, stand out at Chatham Glenwood in the mid-90s. Also had a stellar career at Rend Lake and Kentucky Wesleyan. Cardinal Cleaning can take care of any cleaning needs you have. Home, business, restaurant, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly. Whatever you need, they can take care of you. Get a hold of Cardinal Cleaning. They'll do the rest. This episode is brought to you by Glisten Heating and Air. You can reach them at 217-341-3129 or visit glistenheatingandair.com. That's Glisson. This is owned and operated by Gibbs Gleason himself, a member of the 2000 Pleasant Plains baseball team that were state champs. That's the Dusty Bensko era, former guest. This guy's in the baseball community. He helps coach his son, who's in the local travel scene. This truly is the pros pro for HVAC in the area. I mean, this is a who's who of former pros that have used him. Let's talk about Corey Erickson, Jason Worth, Ryan Murphy, Jason Knadler, Justin Knadler, Brad Owens, Greg Morantz, Jason Washam, Eric Easley. His reviews speak for themselves. Call Glisten Heating and Air. They care about your air. We appreciate you. We are also brought to you by Sitco Chiropractic. They can be reached at 217-525-2035 and sitcochiropractic.com. They offer chiropractic care, corrective exercises, lifestyle advice, nutritional counseling, spinal and postural screenings. They are located at 205 North Grand Avenue. Love the Sitco family. From the dad, Steven, to Kyle and Casey, I grew up with them. Their brother Tyler was a big-time baseball player at SHG and SCI. There's a reason they have over 70 ratings on Google, and they're all 5.0. These guys are great. I went to them a few years back for some back issues I was having. They'll fix you right up. Go see Sitco Chiropractic. It's easy to go to Lincoln. A lot of guys from here that were really talented went Lincoln Land, right? And you wanted to get out, see something new.
Yeah, it really was, and that's all it boiled down to.
Yeah, sure.
Because if we had all the dudes in Springfield go to it would have been a dynasty.
Absolutely.
Freaking dynasty.
Guys like you got to leave town. Screw it up.
No, but it was one of those, like I said, I want to create my own path.
Yeah.
And that's what it was. And there's no other reason why. Because I loved all the guys that we got to play with around town and through summer ball, the Springfield Pride. Just God, what a great bunch of guys that came through Springfield.
Oh man, yeah, there's some names. That's what I have an endless, list of names to pull from. There's so many guys that are absolutely baseball dudes and have cool stories from the area. So this podcast is going to be going for a long time.
Awesome,
lots of guys.
Good stuff.
Before we get into, we got more clips and stuff, but you just said Pride. I'd love to hear you talk a little bit about your time on the Pride. Some of those names that you remembered. Tim talked about. He thought the most dominant he ever saw you was kind of pitching for the Pride. He said there was like one summer or something where you were just like a 1 ERA or just absolutely, dealing, lighting it up. Pride being our Legion team. It was kind of the team for the Springfield Chatham guys back in the day. Like you were one of the guys if you got invited to play for the Pride. It was an honor.
Yeah, no, I would agree. It definitely was an honor.
Who was coaching you guys?
So, well, I had an opportunity to play as a freshman or an alternate on the Pride, or maybe it was sophomore. I can't remember, but yeah, that in itself was an honor, because that's you felt like you were big time, and it was. But my first coach with the Pride, I think, was Brady Burke.
Brady Burke. Yeah.
And, well, I'll be honest with you, he was coach all years I was on the Pride.
My coach on the Pride as well.
Yeah. Super good dude. Super just chill.
That's a great word for Brady Burke, chill.
Yeah.
And you could absolutely rake.
And you know what? He was probably the best guy to coach those teams.
Why do you say that?
Well, not to compare it to like pros and different. I mean, think of all the personalities. Think of all the different egos that were. You're the best dudes.
Everyone's an alpha on that team. Right?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. And I just remember Brady just being super chill, just kind of in our pregame huddles. It wasn't even like rah-rah. It's like, hey, just go get them.
Like, well, guys, I guess we gotta go out there and win this one.
Well, that didn't work out the way we wanted to. It just he was awesome. I love that dude.
I remember Brady Burke's like ass chewing was like, well, you guys just went out there and got your ass kicked. I mean, that didn't look very fun. Was it fun for you guys? It wasn't fun for me. Like that was about the extent of how agitated and animated he was. Perfect for that kind of
stuff. So, Brady, if you ever listen to this, I'm sorry, but he was like the Matthew McConaughey of like.
Yeah,
summer baseball
coaching comparison. Man, the McConaughey of summer baseball, Brady Burke. I bet you never thought
summer baseball coaching, and I mean that in a great way.
Oh, that's a compliment.
Yeah,
Who are some of those names that you played on the Pride that kind of stand out that you remember, like some dudes?
Oh, shoot. Let's see. I remember. Well, let's go. Let's do a 98-ish team. I think obviously Canalers, Scheffler was on there. O'Malley had us, played some games with us. John Freeman, Justin Marco. Gobble. And again, I'm mixing years. Todd Willis. Was Randy? I can't remember if Randy played with us or not. I don't think he did. But I'm leaving guys out. I know it. But
you got your resource right next.
Oh, I do.
Yeah. My man Brock.
Oh yeah.
There's a Pride book of like all the stats, records, and Tim actually sent me a lot of this beforehand too. So.
Oh yeah, how can I forget?
Here we go.
All right, so Well, we're going to be, Shane Teeter, my man. I mean, all these guys.
Was Charles Holloway on that team ever?
Holloway, Charles was before. He was early on.
Man, he mashed.
I mean, talk about a good dude, too, man.
Shilsky? He played with Shilsky?
Shilsky, yeah.
He's going to be a guest someday.
He'd be a good one.
And what a cool story, too. They played, college football as like a D lineman and also getting drafted as a pitcher. What a unique thing, right?
Wait, what?
He played D line at Wesleyan.
I didn't know that.
And it was like their ace pitcher. Like those usually don't go together, right?
No.
No.
No. But Murph, love me some Murph. Man, all these guys, just good
Brian
dudes.
Murphy from Plains?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And then, I mean, shoot, Stotler. I'll tell you a quick story about Stotler.
Go.
He, you talk about, where did you learn, different skill sets or.
There was SHG, SCI, University of Asheville, and now runs the Tribe Academy here in Springfield.
Yeah, super good dude. Haven't talked to him in a while. I need to catch up with him. But I remember, and I can't remember if we were all practicing, whether it was Pride or, one of those Central State 8 All-Star games. Where we were on the
Classic.
We were at the SHG field, the backfield when they actually had a grass infield.
Right, yeah.
I haven't been there in years, but
There used to be no fence on that thing.
Yeah, but I've never told him this, but the way he approached a slow rolling ground ball, because I'd always used to just run through it, but I'd probably do some different things instinctually, but just not intentionally.
He was a shortstop as well.
Yeah. But the way he approached a slow rolling ground ball, I was like, man, dude, that looks pretty.
Really?
Yeah, it looks pretty. I mean, he was very smooth, tall dude.
Yeah, he's tall.
But yeah, man, I took that from that day on. I put that in the old repertoire of how to approach the ground ball and
shout out to Scotty Stotts.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, fielding ground balls again. We're going on different directions here, but Stashy, man.
Oh man, high level.
Do you remember at baseball camp when did he ever do like this bird dance or this bird walk with you guys?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And you talk about, that's where I've learned how to field a professional ground ball, the approach, getting around the baseball.
Circling it.
Yeah, absolutely. But, yeah, good stuff.
Springfield Pride, man.
Yeah, good old Pride.
I think it's still going, but yeah. So let's before we get into senior year here, do you want to go? I'm going to save Timmy for the end. So let's go Brendan Connor here. Brendan Connor being, second baseman at Springfield High. I think he played a little bit of IVCC, a little bit of coaching at Lutheran. And I got a funny little thing about Brendan Connor here. So when I first got a hold of Tim and was like, hey, Tim, we're doing this. Obviously, I have to use you for this. He was kind of like, man, my memory is not great. So let me collab with the Yoda of CS8 baseball history.
Oh, yeah.
And so we got together with Brendan, and Brendan ended up typing out this 18-page document. That's incredible. And I told Greg a little bit about it, but it's going a little bit back to when you guys were 12 years old, Little League, how he saw you guys, counts, scores, outcomes, how he saw himself fit into it. It's incredible. It's an incredible resource. This guy's mind is, I can't comprehend, or it can't be understated how detailed it is and how much he remembers. And he's been a big fan of the show. And I was like, well, I got to get you on here. So we've got some Brendan Connor stuff coming up here. Let me get into Brendan Connor clip. Let's go Greg as a hitter to start off with. You ready, buddy?
Oh, yeah.
Greg was obviously a very good hitter, too. He hit the ball contact, he hit the ball to all fields. I don't think really he had a weakness that you could exploit if you knew him coming as a pitcher. I played with him enough that I think I would have picked up on something had there been one. He definitely had some pop, too. And I think that his base running added to his ability on offense. So not only was he fast, but he was an excellent base runner. This goes back to before he played with Canalers, but he was an excellent base runner, not because he was fast, but because he knew when to take that extra base, or he knew what pitcher or catcher or somebody was falling asleep on him, and he'd take the base right off of him. See, by his standards, he may have struggled a little bit in 2000 at the plate. We started off the year 22-1, our only loss being to Bill Clayton. And Greg got hurt. Then he missed 8 games. We went 5-3 in those 8 games. So that's exactly half the losses that we had, unless you count game 1 10-0 that Greg pitched against Taylorville, and we had to forfeit that game.
Told you.
Which would have been Steinwart's 200 or 300th win, one of the two, and that's a whole funny story in itself. So, I mean, if Greg in his mind would have struggled to play, I think that's exactly what it was. It was a mental thing, because you start to press sometimes when you're at the plate, and you have it over, and the next time out, you put a little more pressure on yourself. Obviously that stuff didn't affect him pitching, but when you're pitching, you make one bad pitch, unless it's a walk-off, you got a chance right the next one to redeem yourself. So, not sure if that's what it was, but it's just what I think.
Brendan as a hitter, I got a lot of thoughts. What do you got?
No, I love Brendan, man.
Game, right?
Oh, I got one question right out of the gate. Okay. What was the forfeit? I can't remember what the forfeit was.
You remember this?
No.
Steinwart told me this. It was something like you had missed a couple classes that day because you had gone out sick or something like that, or you had an appointment or something like that, and there was some rule where if you missed a certain part of the day, you couldn't play that game, and you threw a no-hitter. Or was it a no-hitter? Or I think it was a no-hitter, but you had to forfeit the game afterwards.
Really?
You were not eligible.
Huh.
Don't remember that at all?
No.
Yeah. Weird little thing. Steinwart, I remember him saying that. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. It happened.
Interesting.
I mean, he said it and Steinwart said it. You don't remember it, but...
What was, I wonder why I was out.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
That's what Steinwart said. It was something like you had an appointment or something like that.
Yeah, okay.
I know you weren't the skipping school type.
No. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Because I felt like it was somebody else that got, I don't know.
Well, maybe it was.
I don't know.
Maybe you're getting placed in that situation. But
I've been curious about your senior year. And I remember, obviously, when you look at someone's high school trajectory, you think a higher batting average essentially every year, unless you're a guy like you who dominated early, and now every pitcher knows you. You get a steady diet of deuces. You're putting pressure on yourself. You're trying to get a scholarship or get drafted. Am I in the right arena?
Oh, I think you're probably spot on. Yeah, it
333 as a senior.
Yeah, and I didn't even realize it was, well, to Brennan's point, it's, wasn't that bad. It was 333. A lot of people would take 333, but
when you already batted 420.
Yeah, the expectations. Again, it's managing those expectations. Right. What's realistic and so on. But I think that had a lot to do with it, whether it was subconsciously or even consciously. You do. You look at the bigger picture, maybe. What's at stake, or how are you gonna continue to build towards the ultimate goal? At that point was, getting to college, finding a cool, great fit type landing spot at the collegiate level. But I think 100% it was just pressing. But again, it's, whether it was myself or, even Tim or some of these other guys in the lineup that, they may have known a little bit more on, what my either history or capabilities were, or, it's
all
kind
these coaches have seen you before, for 3 other years, and they're like, just throw this guy deuces.
Don't let so-and-so beat you.
Right.
Yeah, that type of thing. And instead of seeing it for what it was, I was probably trying to make more out of it than what I probably should have, or trying to do too much. And I think for any hitter, that's again normal.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think all in all, that was probably the hitting piece of it. But he mentioned something about base running and some of these other, intangible type things. I was an instinctual player.
How fast were you?
So I think my 60, just to put in perspective, I think the fastest one I ran was 6'7". Okay. I was probably more, once I got, I was probably 6'8", somewhere in there, kind of in that range.
Fast, but not like afterburner fast.
No.
Right?
No.
Yeah. But fast enough where you can wreak havoc on the base pass if you're a heads-up guy.
Sure.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And that was fun.
Absolutely.
I mean, just,
Yeah.
but yeah, being instinctual, that's, because some guys, they try to think too much about what they're doing on the bases.
Or were you able to kind of get out of your head sometimes in the base path and just like be fluid and out there just being aggressive?
Well, yeah, and that's exactly what it was. It was just being instinctual instead of overthinking it. But I wish I would have been more instinctual in a lot of different facets of the game.
Yeah. Do you have anything more on that Brendan clip, or you want to go to the next one?
I can go to the next one.
Okay, cool. Let's go.
Love me some Brendan, though.
Yeah, this is great, man. All right, here we go. As a pitcher.
Greg had great command as a pitcher, especially for a high schooler. He just owned the low and outside corner, and he could throw any pitch in his repertoire for a strike and hit the glove every time. At that age, I think really at any age, if you can look at pitches at the low and outside corner, I think you should be fine. Leo Mazzoni, the former Braves pitching coach, taught that philosophy. Pretty sure that Greg was a Greg Maddux fan, so it wouldn't surprise me by watching Maddux that he, in trying to emulate him, could have been one of the reasons that he pitched the way he did, but I really don't know for sure. Greg's velocity was good for a high schooler as well. He probably threw the hardest on the team, guessing between 90 and 92, which, back then in high school was pretty hard.
I'll take it.
Call it freshman year. I think he was originally played second base. He obviously ends up pitching, and probably was their ace freshman year. He goes on to be the ace sophomore, junior, and senior year. A pretty successful time, those 3 years. 3 city titles, 2 Central State A titles, and 1 runner-up finish in Central State A. 2000, Greg has just a great year. We win regionals and beat Chatham with Rito beating Bill Clayton, which was the only time the Central State team beat Bill. With sectionals for the first time all year, Steinwart has trumpeter called pitches. I'm sure he has his reasons why he had trumpeter called pitches, but we ended up losing that game. Steinwart pulls Greg out, puts in Miff, brings Greg back in. Somehow it just didn't work out. The conference was loaded with pitching that year. Greg had the best stats of anybody. And this includes Bill Clayton, PJ, Trevor Wogemuth, and Matt Brewer, all guys who were either drafted or pitched professionally. So I think if Greg would focus on pitching in college, who knows what might have happened.
The details.
Man, the details. That is, God. This is why this is cool.
Hey, I'm going to say, you said whatever, 85, 86. I'm going to go ahead and say it's 91, 92. Brent, it's in the books. Greg was throwing low 90s fuzz at Springfield High.
No, and then
you remember it differently, you're wrong.
Then that means Bill was touching 95, 98.
It wasn't legit 95, wasn't he?
So I don't know, but Bill, dude, his stuff was electric.
Yeah. And
it just jumped out of his hand.
I've tried to get him to agree to be a guest, and it's hard to get him wrangled.
Wow, you need to poke the bear because he'd be a good one.
Yeah.
But I'm just gonna. Hearing some of that stuff from Brendan, I often wonder, what if, you talk about what ifs, and it's not a good what if train to get on, but I tell my closest family members, man, what if I did pitch, and
you said you had beautiful mechanics.
But the thing was, I don't know if it's going back to some of the earlier comments about just playing all the positions and things of that, but that was important to me. I took a lot of pride in being a student of the game and learning all the different positions and just being able to say that, I can do that, or I can do that. But pitching was, I was not concerned with only getting to pitch, every fourth day or, getting some spot type opportunities in the game. But pitching was, God, it was fun. It was one of the greatest, parts of playing ball and pitching because you were in control.
I mean, you pitched a little bit at Forest Park, right? I thought I saw a couple of appearances.
Yeah, I did. And I don't know if it was a situation where we were loaded with arms.
Yeah.
I was more more valuable in the field.
All these schools you said were talking to you as a pitcher, but
Yeah.
you ended up going to Forest Park. Was it understood that you were going to be a shortstop there the whole time, or was it kind of going?
I knew that there was there'd probably be an opportunity for me to play shortstop coming right in.
Mm-hmm.
But so yeah, well, we can talk on some of that. But I just wanted to about the Brendan Connor stuff.
We've got more.
Oh my gosh!
There's plenty more.
Yeah, let's go. Yeah, because there's different stuff we can talk about when we get to JUCO and that sort of thing.
Let's go. As a shortstop, and I don't. I'm gonna be honest with you. He sent me these clips, and I haven't even listened to them. I knew that they were gonna be on point, and he was gonna be, So I'm hearing these for the first time too.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah.
Between school ball in 1999, the Fallwood Bat League, 2000 school season, and Pride that summer, I was on Greg's team over 100 games, and that spanned just a little over a year. So I'd say I saw him a decent amount as a shortstop, pitcher, and a hitter. The area had a ton of good shortstops back then. I'm biased, but I think Greg was the best in the area at the time, best shortstop overall. You had guys like PJ, Dusty, Bill Clayton, J.R. Kai, Scott Stowler, Matt Berger, that were all good. They all played at least college ball. But I think Greg was the best. You could see his athleticism out on the field. He had great range, strong arm, good instincts. If he made an error, I was shocked. I do think he might have made one in Blue Springs in the semifinals, but I'm not positive. One example of Greg making a better player as a shortstop was we were playing at Robert Roberts Field in 1999 for Springfield High. There was a guy on first base. Ball slowly hit up the middle. Greg went to field it a little bit behind the pitcher, field it with his forehand, backhanded it with his glove to me at second base. I wasn't ready for it. Ball dropped at my feet. We probably would have gotten the guy out. I could tell Greg was frustrated with me. He didn't say anything, but I could just tell. I learned from that point that anytime the ball was hitting Greg's direction with the guy on first base, there was a chance it would be coming to me. Absolutely love being a double play partner with him for a long time.
I love that.
Oh, that is awesome.
Let's go. What do you got?
No, I think that's very kind of him to look at or view me as a shortstop
Amongst all those other peers.
Yeah,
you were so high level.
I was just gonna say, like you hear those names, and it's pretty cool to be viewed as that. So I appreciate that. Because those guys obviously. PJ and Stotts and some of the other ones, Claytons and all those guys. It's good to be in that company.
Absolutely.
So, but yeah, no, it's fun. Brendan, man, he cracks me up listening to this stuff because I don't remember this, and if I can't remember if I was frustrated. I don't remember.
Thing right there, little anecdote. Isn't that great?
I don't even remember the darn play. And
he's held that in his heart all these years.
Yeah,
he was mad at me. All right, I hope I'm not betraying Brendan's trust on this, but this document that I talked about, he had little notes like that of like, and all right, heal this man's heart right now. He always felt like, obviously Scotty Miller didn't get to play because he blew out his elbow, but he always felt like maybe he wasn't your favorite double play partner, but you guys spun a bunch of double plays together. Tell him he was good.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's, Brendan.
A lot of heart on that guy.
Yeah, a lot of heart. Brendan was just solid at everything. He was just consistent, and that's what you need as a ball player. And just the consistency that he brought to the field every game, and he got it done.
Yeah.
Hitting wise, fielding wise, just solid.
Yep.
And no, he was a good, is a good dude, fun to play with.
So you were not mad at him?
Heck no. Heck no. Heck no. I hope, looking back too, is that you want to be a good teammate.
Absolutely.
Right? And nobody's out there trying to, drop a ball or whatever the case is. And we all had the same end goal. So it's all good, man. It's good stuff.
Love that. Let's move on to Greg intangibles. Here we go.
I think one reason that Greg had such good instincts at all facets of the game is that he's very well coached growing up. And I think you can give a lot of that credit to his dad. The dad coached him in basketball and baseball, and he was a very good coach. I'm not sure if his dad was a good athlete or not, but I mean, odds are, judging based on Greg, I would say that his dad probably was. Confidence was something that stood out to me with Greg. Ever since I met him, he always had this kind of swagger to him. He wasn't cocky. He was just confident. And there's a fine line between that, because I guess that's the reason I always kind of like Greg is he was confident, but he wasn't cocky. That confidence was key because it rubbed off on everyone else, and it rubbed off on me at least. Playing with guys like Greg and Tim allowed guys like me to be ourselves. We didn't have to be leaders. We didn't have to be superstars. We just had to go out and get our jobs done, and the rest of it would fall in line. He's a winner. Some people are just winners. Ever since I know him, he's been a winner. I played against him. I played with him, and let me tell you, that easily you definitely want him on your side. His leadership skills also are, I think, more important. It goes along with everything else I just said. But quick story about that is that in 1999, for the school ball, we started off pretty slow. Steinwart kept talking about the big three, which have been Greg, Tim, and Nick Kuntze. It annoyed some people, but I didn't really mind. They were the only three that had real varsity experience, so it was kind of dumb not to listen to them. There was one day that coaches left practice. Greg exchanged some words with somebody. We had it out. From that point, things clicked. Greg usually led by example, but if he had to, he would say something.
A lot of stuff. What you got?
No, that's that was a long clip. You're trying to digest all that. Well, right out of the gate, I think again, it's good knowing. It feels good to know that was the perception. I was confident, but going back to values and how we approach things, and it was instilled in me. It's like I'm never above anything or everyone or anyone, because on a team like that, he mentioned big three, but look, we all played for each other, and I truly believe that, and I think that's again why we were so good that year. But no, I want to make everybody, part of it. Yeah. And I think that's exactly, that was my goal. And I think that's what we were able to accomplish.
I didn't realize that. So when I heard him say that Steinwart left practice, he did that same tactic with us a few times. So that was one of his bag of tricks. Like he would do guys or see how you were, who would step up and be a leader, or who would,
Yeah, and I again, as a comment I made earlier, I think Steinwart was ahead of his time in some ways, where he wanted to give us ownership of the direction we were going, and he
trust too, because he had this trust built into you and Tim, right? You guys were these 4-year guys. You did the right things always. Mm-hmm. We didn't have that with my class. I was kind of like the leader, and I was an absolute knucklehead, so things went a little sideways for us. You guys were like, the straight and narrow.
Yeah, we were able to police ourselves. Yeah. If we held each other accountable, and sometimes it did require, some hard conversations or courageous conversations, however you want to look at it. But at the end of the day, I think the results were there. That we wanted to get to play at a deep into the season, and I think to Brennan's point, we all came together, which is cool.
I love that. You guys were 31-7 your senior year.
Yeah, I think so. Right. And I know that was the best record because we had beat the record of the '98 team.
Okay.
And then we held that record, I think, until the state team.
Runs.
Yeah, one of the state runs.
For sure. And if you haven't, have you listened to Ben Hartle?
I've not.
That kid's special. I mean,
Yeah.
Springfield High guy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He went to Springfield High, got drafted out of Kansas, but I had him on recently for the third time, but his first time on was just incredible. I highly encourage everyone to listen to that. Here we go. Last one, Brendan Connor, Greg's stories.
1996, Greg and Tim's team finished third place in the Sandy Koufax, which meant that our team, the Indians, got to pick them up to play in the state tournament.
Yeah.
We ended up playing, advancing the state championship, and playing Edwardsville, and they ended up beating us in the final game. They didn't want to turn in their birth certificates, so we ended up going to national regionals. And that Indians team with Matt Mifflin, Scott Miller, Rusty Shieldman, Greg, Tim, and I would form pretty much the nucleus of the 2000 SHS team.
Uh-huh.
And also, that means that 4 teams from Springfield between 1995 and 96 ended up going to national regionals. The Dairy Queen team, Pleasant Plains, Indians, and Springfield Shockers. And that 3 of those were rec teams. So in the summer of 1998, the Pride's playing the Blue Springs with that tournament. I believe it was Greg, Tim, and the Canadians went to go see this shortstop, this amazing shortstop playing on the home run derby out there. And they watched him play, and he made like 3 errors. And somebody told me, I don't remember who it was, they said this guy sucked, and it turns out it was Albert Poole. For the Pride in the summer of 2000, we played in the Lincoln Land 4th of July tournament. And we beat the Pallies, who had just won the national championship.
Uh-huh.
Granted, they were without their 4 players that ended up playing professional baseball, but I still think a team that was, 90% high school kids that beat the junior college team, I think is pretty impressive.
Mm-hmm.
That summer for the Pride, we also won the Mattoon Firecracker Classic, which is the first Pride team to ever do that. Finished 3rd in the Blue Springs tournament and won district. In division, Greg and I collided in the outfield, and it was my fault. My collarbone and Greg got a concussion. So Greg was so enamored with Stash, he may have had a document that said he was, in fact, Stash.
What we got? We got anything on that?
Oh, there's a lot to unpack there. I mean,
Brendan. Thank you, Brendan, man. Those were incredible.
Brendan, we got to catch up, man. Oh, this is awesome. Yeah, I mean, well, I got no good follow up to all that. Like, that is amazing.
How do you top that?
I don't think you do.
I like how he starts. He's like 1996, April 2nd.
It was a cold.
Yeah. The weather was 65 degrees.
Quite misty. No, that's awesome.
Thank you to Brendan Connor. Let's before we get to senior year, let's finish out we got some Stashy to get through. So we already did Stashy Flat Top. She copied him. We did Stashy Twin Day. Let's do Stashy Greg as a fielder.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Greg had, kid had great hands, had a good arm. He was mobile. Just had a pretty good eye for the ball, when it's coming, and a pretty good sense of, when you're playing shortstop, I mean, you're kind of the general, and he was the general, in that, up the middle, and he kind of, if Greg was on, defensively and offensively, Springfield High was on. It was a good thing, and that was a good team. We played on some good teams.
That was, yeah.
Yeah, it was some good teams there. And he was the catalyst of that team.
Absolutely.
People went, a lot of people, we even did. You kind of leaned on him, put a little, maybe we put too much pressure on him at times, but I think overall, I think he handled it very well.
Stash.
What's it like hearing people, like all these people, like from your past, like talk about you and like, that they did this to sit down and talk, their thoughts on your career and how they saw you? Gotta be a little surreal, right?
Yeah, absolutely, and I think you sometimes get a little bit emotional,
Sure.
Because it is, hearing people and their viewpoint and actually taking time out of their day to reflect on it is
enthusiastic.
Yeah, it is. It's a great feeling.
All right, Stashy, let's go work ethic.
Yeah, Greg like I said, he worked his fanny off. We extra time after practice. Before practice, just worked on his taking ground balls, and he was one of those kids that just went out and just played. He worked hard and worked on his hands and worked on his accuracy throwing, and just as far as across the field and getting rid of the ball quick. You get a little bigger, faster, and he had it all. Greg had what it took. All the skills were there, and yeah, you feel like great kid, man.
Love to hear that. We got one more Stash clip, and then we're gonna take a little break. You cool with that?
Cool.
All right, man. This is called Future Pro.
You feel like Greg looked like a future professional, like he had that in his card, possibly.
Yeah, early on, I would say, yeah. By the time he was a senior, junior or senior, you could see the physical. He was getting stronger. Wasn't always the biggest, but he was getting stronger, and he had the skills that the body language and how the body moves. You're like, yeah, he's got a chance. I always thought he had a chance. You don't say that about everybody. And I thought Greg, just working with him, he kind of he was kind of a smitten image of how I did things. And I obviously love that. And he was further advanced. He's much further advanced at that time in his career than I ever was. But he fit the mold, to make it. At least make it to the minors and give himself a chance.
Mm-hmm.
And you never know what would have happened.
Absolutely, you never know.
But no, I certainly thought he was. I think, Jim and I would always talk, and Jim and I would always put a lot of things in perspective, and was very good about that. I was pretty optimistic about a lot of things. I wanted to be optimistic, and not really say much to the kids, but as you get older, hey man, keep working hard. There's a chance. Get to college. There's a chance for him. And he was one of those that I thought.
He was one of those kids. That's cool to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. And I vividly remember having some conversations with Stash about just that.
Yeah.
And maybe it was me just trying to probe a little bit. It's like, hey man, what are you thinking? Yeah. But no, there'd be times where it's like, yeah, if you keep doing this or that, it's like, you're gonna have a chance. And I held on to that for sure.
There's love that, dude. I've seen a lot of baseball. You absolutely looked like a future professional as a senior in high school.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
Cool. Well,
sure.
That's the end of our Stash clips. Thank you to Coach Stash, Jaime, a former guest. I love his voice. He's incredible. The amount of time that this guy poured into people, baseball-wise, is just astounding.
It's such a cool thing, and love that guy.
That's guy. So we're gonna take a little break here. We're at 2 hours, and then we're gonna pick it back up. So we're right at our senior year. We still got to hear from Tim Wallen, Darren Hendrickson, Lello. And then we've got our fun Q&A. So we'll be right back. This is going to be part 1.